to call about, though, is this prospect of whether Trump is going to be found guilty or whether he'll be elected is really the important factor. I don't think this is going to happen. And one of the major things that comes into play here is his health. I think he's in real bad shape, this guy.
Trump?
Yeah.
Probably. He's obese. He's 77. His diet sucks. He gets no exercise.
Yeah, well, even if he isn't elected, he's created this Frankenstein monster with these MAGA people, and that's really so we're not out of the woods. If he doesn't make it to the election, or if he's voted out, the problem still remains.
I think it'll diminish radically, Brandon, because I think that what we're looking at is not a movement. We're looking at a cult, and there's a big difference between the two. A cult is basically people, surrounding and loving an individual personality, whereas a movement is typically animated by an idea. And there's not a coherent idea behind the Trump cult other than loving Trump and whatever he says. I mean, one day he's in favor of tariffs, the next day he's against tariffs. One day he's in favor of NATO, the next day he's against NATO. One day, I could go through a long list. And people just go along with him, whatever he says. That's a cult by definition. And when cult leaders are taken down, whether it was, Jim Jones committing suicide in Guyana or Charles Manson being thrown in prison, when cult leaders are taken down, the cult collapses. And I think that when Trump loses the election this fall, you're going to see a rapid collapse in the Trump cult and a fairly rapid reconsolidation of the Republican Party around the old kind of Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, fiscal conservative, let's just privatize Social Security and Medicare Republicans.
You don't think, what about these lunatics in Florida? These lunatics in states like Ohio trying to ban abortion. That's really what I'm scared about is these.
I think they're going to give up. Because they're going to get defeated very badly, and they're going to realize that this doesn't work. I could be wrong. I would be sad if I was proven wrong, because I think this is what would be best for the country. But I really think that the defeat of Trump will be. In fact, I should probably write an op-ed about this, because I think this is a consequential difference between a movement and a cult. And a lot of people have written about the Trump cult, but very few people put it in that context. What does that mean? What will the defeat of Trump mean? Or for that matter, the election of Trump. I would argue that having lived in Germany and having known some people who were Nazis, who were old Nazis, who had volunteered for Hitler's army, who had been in Hitler's army, and who at the time believed in Hitler and then, woke up after the war, deprogrammed themselves essentially after the war, that I would say that the Hitler movement was a cult. It wasn't a movement. It was actually a cult. And when Hitler died, that was the end of it. When Mussolini died, that was the end of it. I think with Franco, fascism wasn't as much a cult as it was a movement. It's a subtle distinction, but in some ways, actually not so subtle. But those are my thoughts on that. Brandon, thanks for the call. Good talking to you.